The anime and manga of Shigurui is a seinen samurai tale of revenge set in the 1600s during the rule of Iemitsu Tokugawa. This is easily the most graphic and mature samurai story that I have ever experienced within anime or manga. In the first episode and chapter of Shigurui, we learn of an event being held by Tadanaga Tokugawa, who was infamous in Japanese history for committing random acts of atrocity. Tadanaga planned an event for local ronin to compete against each other for positions in his castle using real blades, which was forbidden and would also lead to many deaths. The star attraction of this event was a duel between Genosuke Fujiki, a one-armed swordsman, and Seigen Irako, a samurai who was both blind and crippled. These events in episode 1 are simply foreshadowing. Shigurui is the story of the lives of these two men, their rivalry, and how their bodies became so deformed. Their long-lasting rivalry was formed once they first met because their personalities differ greatly. Fujiki is a traditional martial artist who cares only for the perfection of his skills, and he finds that Irako is a mockery of the martial art because he takes great pride in his beauty and has a taste for the theatrics. For Seigen Irako, who is my favorite character of the series, his dedication lies with his thirst for power and his ambition. He dislikes Fujiki because he is simply an obstacle who he must overcome. Fujiki is the star student at the notorious Kogan Dojo, which teaches a very deadly art. Throughout time and circumstance, we see that Irako is accepted into the Kogan school, where he intends to learn everything he can, surpass Fujiki, and become the head of the school so that he can use it as a springboard to higher positions. Because of Irako's ambition, he does a few things which are considered suspicious, so the members of the Kogan school and Kogan himself preemptively betray Irako, and they do numerous terrible things to him. Because of the events of this night, things are set into motion for the rest of the series for Irako to both get revenge on the school and also climb to power. But also for Fujiki to defend the name of his school and also to fulfill the vow of killing Seigen Irako. The story of Shigurui is heavily based in Japanese history. I myself am a history buff, so I really enjoyed the references given in the series and also the atmosphere. But despite being based in history, Shigurui features one fantasy element, which is the art of the Kogan style. Members of the Kogan school push their bodies to the limit so that they can swing a sword with the flick of their wrist as if it were a light paintbrush. The swords in the series appear to only weigh a few ounces but have the cutting power of a lightsaber. The fantasy element lies within how they hold and swing their swords. They will do numerous things which I feel to be impossible, such as when they swing their sword, they will let go of it in mid-swing and grip it by the end of the handle to get a much longer reach on their opponent. Some of them will draw and swing their sword with only two fingers, which is impossible because you don't really have that range of motion with your wrist, but when swinging the sword, they will actually let go of it and catch it by the two little knots at the end of the handle down here and swing it on the tips of their fingers. They'll basically just swing it like this, which isn't too difficult. I could probably do it with this wakizashi here just because it's so short. The main issue with that is that a sword is so long, regardless of its weight, you really can't support all of its weight between your two fingers like that. There's actually another technique used in the series where they'll actually grip their katana by the end like this, and they will just put so much pressure on the blade trying to swing it, but they're holding it back so that whenever they do let go, it has enough momentum and force to just cut through a person moments before they even know that they've been cut. In my opinion, the most interesting technique in this series is used by Seigen Irako in the first episode, called the Mumyo Sakuragane, where he'll actually take his sword and hold it underhanded, and he will actually take his toes and grip it around the blade down by his feet, and he will take both hands and put a lot of pressure on the sword, twisting his body, building up a mass amount of torque on the blade so that when he releases it with his toes, he will actually swing it upwards with enough force to cleave a person's body in half vertically. Because of the variety of attacks, all of the fights here are very intense, and there's no guarantee that a particular character will survive without taking serious injuries. The manga of Shigurui will actually troll you from time to time, showing you the deaths of one of the characters in the middle of the fight, but it's really just a vision from the mind of one of the characters. The anime and the manga both tell the same story, but I feel that the anime was created as a service to the fans of the manga because it doesn't tell the complete story. My biggest complaint about the anime is that it's an incomplete story. You don't get a filler ending, you don't get a cliffhanger ending, it just ends, leaving you with this massive void making you want to read the manga. Having said that, I still do recommend watching the anime first, even though it is incomplete. It's still such a beautiful experience and it will get you into the manga. The anime perfectly depicts everything that is shown in the manga and ends at the beginning of chapter 33, but I would recommend just starting over at the beginning because it's still a very enjoyable experience. From here on, we learn much more about their childhood and past and what drives them, what fuels their dedication. We would see events in the past before Irako was banished from the Kogan school where he would bond with Fujiki. We also see the introduction of new characters, intense duels that will span numerous chapters, and also the conclusion to the epic duel which we're given a glimpse of in the beginning of the series. All of these parts are very important for the story of Shigurui, and I feel that it is a must for them to continue the Shigurui anime at some point. Shigurui properly portrays the life of samurai during the Tokugawa era. We see Kogan himself becoming a different person around royalty. In this era, you'll find that the tongue is much sharper than the sword because no matter how good you are, if you don't properly respect those above you in higher classes, then it will probably get you killed. Here we see that anyone with a Tokugawa bloodline is basically revered as a god and can just do whatever they want and get away with anything. Tadanaga was capable of getting away with numerous atrocities because there was no one who would report him to his older brother because they feared death. The amount of Japanese history and culture within the story of Shigurui may be a bit confusing for those who aren't already familiar with it, but for me, I really felt that its detail was an added bonus. As for the overall presentation of the anime and the manga, the anime is animated beautifully by the famous Madhouse Studios. Despite its low budget, Madhouse took Shigurui to the level of art, not only because of the beauty of its animation, but because numerous things were done in symbolic ways. The music here is also beautiful. The songs were made by traditional Japanese instruments. The English voice acting was good. They properly translate the script, and they actually use proper Japanese names for things instead of just giving it a poor English translation. The English voice acting of some characters during dramatic moments wasn't as intense as it was within the Japanese version, but I still found the English voice acting to be good. The anime's presentation is a total package which beautifully sets the atmosphere. As for the art of the manga, I felt that it was beautiful. It wasn't perfect, but when reading the series, you can actually see a progression in the skill of the artist throughout the series. I felt that all of the panels were beautifully detailed. You could see the textures of all of the wood, cloth, the buildings, parts of the sword. Everything had beautiful textures. There were numerous situations where characters would just not have any eyes at all, or sometimes they would have eyes and they would be completely white in unnecessary situations, but this wasn't the case at all times. But that's really just a small complaint. Overall, I felt the manga to be beautiful, and I really enjoyed the attention to detail in both the historical references and also the textures. The anime was created in 2007, and the manga ran from 2003 till 2010. The story of Shigurui was based off the first chapter of the historical novel called Tsuruga Jo Gozen. I recommend Shigurui to all mature fans of anime and manga who enjoy samurai series, but I warn you, this is a very graphic series. Shigurui contains instances of animal cruelty, body mutilation, and also the desecration of dead bodies. I really enjoyed both the anime and the manga of Shigurui. There were some nights where I would intend on reading Shigurui for maybe just 30 minutes, but I would end up reading it for hours just to wake up the next day and read it for another hour before getting out of bed. The anime is available on DVD and Blu Ray. I highly recommend buying the Blu Ray, and if you're a subscriber to Netflix, it's currently available there. So if you've seen the anime or read the manga to Shigurui, let me know your thoughts about the series in the comments section below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you later.